The Dreamcast may have been a stellar send-off to Sega's console division, but it seemed far from the case in terms of a send-off back in its launch on September 9th, 1999. With Sega's previous console not performing as well as intended, it looked as though the company was going to spin dash back into success with a console that thought about great games and internet play. But before casting those dreams into games for Sega fans to enjoy, a controller needs to be reeled in first. And Sega's answer for the new system will lead the charge to the new millennium in gaming. This is the Sega Dreamcast controller, the primary controller for the Sega Dreamcast. It's a controller unlike any other and one of my personal favorite designs, so much so that some of you may remember me covering this controller mostly in the console review of the Dreamcast. The controller that inspired BrianTheBlue AC reviews. It's ahead of its time in so many ways. Going in for a closer look, we see on the left-hand side a free-moving C-stick and a big plastic D-pad right under it. Reason why I describe them as such is because the C-stick really feels like it's going the extra mile in terms of circular rotation, which I'm sure the circle indent helps out with. And the D-pad is abnormally massive and bulky. It feels as though it can barely input commands. Luckily by this point we were moving away from the directional pads to mainly using analog sticks for directional input, so you won't be using this too much. On the lower center of the controller we have the triangle start button that may be this shape to mimic the power light on the console. Only speculating that, but we also have the cord on the bottom, which isn't a normal thing to see. The cords are usually on top with most other controllers, but there is a very specific reason for this change, and we'll get to it very soon. The cord is also unique in the sense of color. Never really seen anything with a grayish purple color before that's been real popular. Working our way from the bottom, we'll flip over to the back to find some notable features. Of course, you'll find some screws, FCC info, and other info related to the controller, but we also have my favorite part, the L&R triggers and grips. I don't know about you, but I very much enjoy how this was made. I'm able to grip the controller with all my fingers without issue, and rest each of my index fingers on the triggers, waiting to use those buttons when needed. I just want to say to all future gaming controller designer people, if you do incorporate this kind of control scheme, you'll be doing a good for me and other gamers, just like Sega did way back when. They knew what was up. But I'm not entirely sure what the point was of adding this indent to the back for the sole reason of holding the cord up. What does this even accomplish? Before you answer my question in the comments section, we must take a look at the button interface that comes with your simple red A, blue B, yellow X, and green Y buttons. Not much to say after that, but I do want to say that I find the buttons may be a little too spaced out, but I think I'm in the minority here, as I'm still able to get around without any real problems. Also, if you do have trouble navigating around, the braille indents on each button help you identify where your thumb is at any time. Certainly helps out this guy who wears sunglasses indoors, and not because I'm blind. The logo lies on top of the controller as it should be, looking fine and Dreamcast-icky. Not sure where I was going with that, but let's move right along to the main feature of this controller, and that has to deal with this tiny screen here. Now you may be asking what this is, and I can just take it out and show you this little baby called the VMU. The Visual Memory Unit is probably the cutest memory card ever in existence, as it not only saves your game data, it can also play various mini-games depending on the actual game you're playing. You probably already guessed that with the mini D-pad and other buttons. It's a dead giveaway by this point. Not only that, but the VMU is also capable of exchanging game files by plugging one another on the top here, without the need of bringing your memory card to another person's house. It would leave your controller looking empty anyway, but maybe you can use your backup VMU to fill in the gap, as there are 2 slots for them after all. That's the controller in a nutshell. now it's time to plug this into the Dreamcast and see what it can think in action. And as you can see, while the system is thinking of fast blue hedgehogs, radio junkies spraying graffiti, crazy taxi drivers, and a Japanese role-playing revenge story, the controller allows you to take command of the characters the Dreamcast thinks appropriate, as you would with any other system prior or later on. But the controller will be doing some thinking as well, where you'll see the VMU doing its thing, and it may be doing even more thinking if you're playing any games with multiplayer. The Sega Dreamcast controller is a great controller that ought to get more appreciation than just being the Dreamcast controller. It has a great design, way ahead of its time, and how can you ignore the VMU? You'll definitely need to get this when you're getting a Sega Dreamcast, but it doesn't necessarily need to be in white, for it has many different color choices, much like the Nintendo 64 controller. Unfortunately, I don't have any other color variants for my Dreamcast, but I do for my N64. I need to rectify that soon. Got any fond memories with this controller/accessory? Tell me about it by leaving a comment. If you like what you see, be sure to leave a like. If you think others would like this, share the video around. And if you want to see more, hit that subscribe button pronto. This is BrianTheBlue, and I'll see you later.